What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's video, we need to talk about how the CRKN, aka Kraken, naked shorts must pay. Because I don't know about you, as we approach 1 o'clock in the afternoon, last trade 0479 on CRKN, there's a hell of a lot more good in that call than bad. But let's start off with the bad, shall we? They lost $4.6 million, call it 5. They're still losing millions of dollars, but it was better slightly than the prior year. The revenue came in, as I heard it, at $700K. That's $100,000 less than the guidance we were given last quarter. And it also sounded to me, along with many of you, that the smart window insert biz is being slightly delayed, let's call it 30 to 60 days. We were originally hearing May, June, then it was June, July. Now it sounds like August, September, rolling out in 3 phases so they can get customer feedback, which is smart. And last, of course, but certainly not least, there's Doug, the CEO of the company, being sued by at least 2 entities, one of which I personally, and this is my opinion, think is largely responsible for dark pool naked short selling. That's my opinion. I can't prove it. And no, I'm not going to mention the name, but do your research. Because if they're actually telling us the truth, that they only issued $2 million on the Elock, and I want to hear, now that I've had a chance to think about it, what have you done since the end of March when the quarter ended and now? Who sold over 200 million shares on almost 400 million traded yesterday, another 200 million today, and again, it's gone no fucking where. Who's selling that? That's not dumb retail. It's certainly not us. We bought over 8 million shares under a nickel in the last 30 to 60 days. Who, Doug, is selling the stock right now if it's not you? It's got to be the naked shorts. And I'll talk about exactly what needs to be done with a former member of Congress in a second. But once again, I want to go back to the obvious. They're losing money. They've delayed the launch of why they originally came public as a company, aka the smart insert window biz. But along comes a guy named Boaz, who I think should have had some airtime today, if not this quarter, definitely next. Doug, you have a credibility problem. And while I have never had one with you hiding under the desk, folks, you can say what you want about this guy. He's a snake oil salesman. My God, if you go on Reddit or anywhere on StockTwits, you would think that Doug's the worst fucking CEO on the history of planet Earth. And I get it. You're down 99% since it went public, and they just filed a proxy for potentially, if they don't get an extension, which they already had the meeting on, of up to 150 to 1 reverse split. It's not all peaches and cream. And this guy is a bit defensive at times, but not with respect to me. When I fucking call him tomorrow or the day after, he's going to answer the phone. And he's going to put his gloves on and he's going to start fucking retaliating before I have a chance to say what I have to say. But he at least picks up the phone. He at least tells me what he can legally say with respect to the construction and the insert biz. And this company's a hell of a lot stronger, as he pointed out in the call, right now than it was even 3 or 6 months ago. A lot stronger. Fuck, the fucking stock is trying to tell you, having traded over 700 million shares in the last 2 or 3 days, it wants to run. It needs to run. It must be more than worth for a fucking nickel. So if we are to believe them, as I transition to the positive aspect of the call, and that it must be largely naked selling, what are we going to do about it? Well, I've got an answer in the name of Devon Nunes and something called the RICO Act. But before we get to that, they've got contracts, and I'm keeping it simple, stupid, all over the place. Idaho, Arizona, California, Oregon, going south of the border to Mexico, soon to be the Caribbean and other places. It's crystal clear. I counted at least 8 million or thereabouts in new business related to Boaz. He should have been on the call today. He better be on the call next time. You need another voice, Doug. You have a lousy reputation. You work hard. You take my calls. I applaud that. I think you're doing a pretty good job right now, but you need to give the floor to other people. You need to let the guy that's saving this fucking company, or at least helping to do so, give him some airtime. Let people know, not just through the power of purse and you buying stock after that 10Q is filed, but let others know what's going on in a deeper, more in-depth way. Perhaps someone who's got a different perspective on how the business is currently or should be being run. So you've got deals all over the place, but for the sake of time, and Doug, you need to hear this message. Jason at IR, who's another guy who's taken a lot of heat, but he's not hiding under the desk. Sure, they'll ignore a lot of my emails, and they understand that I'm fucking spouting off, and I'm angry, and I bought 20 million shares with my friends, over 300 strong, inside of our private community. We've got a right to be pissed off. We got a right to demand some answers. If it wasn't for us, this fucking stock would be a penny a share. But what really jumped off the page, and I quote, we expect net income to be positive before the end of the year. So in other words, we're going to go from losing $5 million in the last quarter to making money by the end of this year in the next 2 quarters. That's huge. We're not talking about cash flow. We're talking about net income positive by the end of the 4th quarter. And the one that I actually felt slightly guilty about, but then I had some time to think about it. Doug and or Joel said they've only drawn down $2 million additional of the Elock, the equipment line of credit, in the 2nd quarter, or the quarter ended in March. Folks, if we assume the VWAP, the average price in the last quarter, was a dime, that's 20 million shares, aka exactly what we own. In other words, we soaked up all your motherfucking Elock last quarter, Doug. But then I had a chance to think about it, and I said, wait a second. What have you done from the end of March until today? Were you in there selling this fucking stock down from a dime? Who was dumping tens of hundreds of millions of shares back to 4 and small change? Are you doing it so you can get some cheap stock after you file that 10Q, which is going to be delayed from what you said a few weeks? Is that why you're drawing down on the Elock? Inquiring minds want to know. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, you have a company, in my opinion, that's turning the corner. We own arguably 20 to 25% of the tradable float. We have a chance to collectively put the nuts, the screws to the naked short sellers. But on April the 24th of this year, Devon Nunes, and take the politics out of it, who was and or is heavily involved in DJT, Donald Trump's Truth Social, they hammered the stock down to under $25 a share. He came out and said, we're going to investigate and we're going to use the RICO Act, aka what took down the mafia, to go after the naked shorts. And all of a sudden, DJT doubles. Why do I think, and I'm going to keep the symbols out of it, but some stocks that you're watching, we've pointed out, have gone from a nickel to 20, 30, 50, in some cases close to $1 a share in the last 3 weeks? RICO. Some of that naked selling is being covered. So, Doug, you need to get on the phone, and I'm going to tell you this personally when I call you tomorrow, if not the next day, and call Devon Nunes. I've got the number. You give them the name. They already have a group that's doing investigation. CRKN. We think we have a problem with naked selling. Don't just rely on that guy at the NASDAQ that you told me about. No, you need someone who's got congressional firepower to do an investigation, unless you got something to hide. Because if you don't, and there's only 2 million or thereabouts, this is not an abuse of dilution, folks. We've all seen hundreds of millions of shares of dilution. They've only drawn down on approximately $8 million in the last 12 plus months, only 2 million in the last quarter, and we bought that 20 million shares. If this is in large part illegal naked short selling, where they borrow the stock without legally, or excuse me, they short the stock without legally borrowing it, then maybe Devon Nunes and the investigative group that got DJT to double, and some of these penny stocks that shouldn't even be in business to quadruple or more, then maybe, just maybe, it can light a fire, because it's showing us, it's telling us it wants to go. Look what it did yesterday, from fucking 4 and small change to 10.5. It wants to go. But you need to step forward, number one, and say, we've only drawn down on X million dollars as of this date, not the last quarter. No more giving me bullshit that you can't fucking tell your largest shareholder how many shares are fucking outstanding right now. If we were not in there every damn day, especially under a nickel, this stock would be on the pennies by now. Trading at less than a penny a share on the pink sheets, excuse me. Get on the phone. Tell them to open up an investigation. Come out and tell the street, not only are you going to stop drawing down on the 42 million available on the Elock and go to a non-dilutive credit line, but you're going to step in with at least 10 million shares of buying within 3 days after you file that motherfucking 10Q. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, Last trade, 04 and small change. Actually, 04 and 8 change. That we love you, and thanks for watching.